The Norwegian steam-powered cargo ship Rokta ran aground in a storm at Galeskera, Hustadvika during the night of April 3, 1938. Due to the weather and the treacherous waters, a rescue attempt could not be launched until a day and a half later. At that point, 6 of the 12 crew members were rescued alive. In addition, 2 of the rescuers died during the operation. The rescue mission was covered live in newspapers and on the radio in both Norway and abroad. The wreck and the rescue were the subjects of a poem by Arnulf Overland titled The Rescue Deed at Hustadvika. The Rokta belonged to the shipping company Las Eide in Øystese in Hardanger. Rokta transported slate from Alta to Leith in Scotland and brought coal and coke back to Norway. On Wednesday, March 30th, 1938, the steamship Rokta sailed from Alta with a cargo of slate on board. As the ship approached Kristiansund on the evening of Saturday, April 2nd, a storm warning from the northeast had been issued. The officers on board considered heading into Kristiansund to wait out the storm, but decided to continue as the weather was still relatively calm. At 3:15 a.m., on Sunday, April 3rd, Rokta hit a reef and began to take on water. The ship remained stuck at Østrestauren west of Galeskera. One of the crew, Christian Borven, got into a lifeboat which then fell into the sea and drifted away. He was later found dead in the lifeboat. The remaining crew stayed on the ship. Rokta only had a radio receiver and was therefore unable to call for help from land. The wheelhouse was damaged in the grounding, and as the ship took on water, the crew had to evacuate it. The 11 remaining crew members mostly stayed in the chart room, a small iron hut on deck where maps and navigation tools were kept. The shipwreck was spotted from shore on the morning of Sunday, April 3rd, and both the rescue vessel Christian Bugge, stationed in Kristiansund, and several other boats headed toward the wreck. However, the weather was too poor for any vessel to get close, and the rescuers had to return to land without being able to help. On that first day, it was also unclear whether there were still people aboard the ship. Only on the morning of Monday, April 4th, did the crew on Christian Bugge, which had returned to the scene, discover that there were still survivors aboard. By that time, Rokta had broken in two. The bow section had drifted away and sunk, while the stern section, where the crew remained, was slipping off the reef. The rescue ship called for more help from land, and several fishing boats returned to assist. At high tide around 2 p.m., the rescue vessel and the other boats launched a rescue attempt. In addition to Christian Bugge, the fishing boats Grey from Gossen and Forsok from Rindaroy navigated the reefs to reach the wreck. Just outside the breakers were Barvag, Axel and Donning from Bjørnsund, as well as Parat from Ona. A dory with 4 men from Barvag tried to reach Rokta, as did a supply boat with 8 men from Axel. Donning pumped oil onto the sea in an attempt to calm the waves. During the rescue, Axel also made it through the breakers. In total, 96 people were involved in the rescue attempt. The rescuers reached Rokta just as the remaining part of the ship slipped off the reef and sank, forcing all 11 crew members to jump into the sea. 8 of them were rescued by the boats, but 2 died. The final 3 were lost at sea and never found. Among them was the captain. During the dramatic rescue, the dory from Barvag was hit by a powerful breaker and nearly capsized, but managed to stay afloat. Shortly after, the supply boat from Axel was overturned by another wave, and all 8 men on board fell into the sea. 2 of them disappeared in the waves, while the others were rescued. Today you can see the supply boat from Axel, which attempted to rescue the crew of the Rokta at Coastal Museum, and a monument has been erected on Rindaroya in memory of the tragic Rokta shipwreck. The memorial honors the 6 members of the 12-person crew who perished, as well as the 2 rescuers from Bjørnsund who lost their lives during the operation.